A house is made of wood and stone, but only love can make a home. Welcome to the RepcoLite Home Improvement Show, helping you make your home into one you'll love even more. On News Radio Wood 1300 and 106.9 FM.
Well, good morning, everybody. Happy Saturday. Haley, happy Saturday. Is your coffee good?
Mm-hmm. Delicious.
Everything you dreamed it would be?
Almost.
Almost everything.
Almost.
Now, you're a black coffee person.
Yes. Oh, yeah, you like cream.
I'm trying to be a black coffee person, but it just tastes like wet dirt. Yeah, it's not very yummy. Yeah, I guess it tastes like coffee. I like that sugary yumminess, but I have, well, how do I explain this? I have made jokes about how winter has chubbified me a little bit.
Chubbified.
I don't know if that's a word, but it's a gentle way of adding a few pounds just to be safe in case food's scarce.
Right.
In the spring
You're
and the summer.
like a bear.
Anyway, I finally broke down and I bought a scale for the house.
How'd that go?
Because I haven't had one. Yes, that is depressing. That's why I've got coffee that's black.
Didn't have a scale.
Yes.
It's depressing.
Yeah, so I was a little surprised. It's not what I expected. So I kept shedding layers and getting back on the scale, hoping that the shirt weighed 5 pounds.
It's just the socks.
Yeah, it turns out it's not. So I'm working with black coffee here, doing my best.
The creamer is the calorie cut?
Well, I'm cutting a lot, but I'm trying to really, really cut and cut quickly.
Got it.
Because swimsuit season's coming up, and I want to be looking as good as I can, right?
Yeah. So black coffee it is.
Black coffee it is. I mean, there's so many other things that I want to say right now that I probably shouldn't. Because when I thought of swimsuit season, a whole bunch of other thoughts.
You've really gone down the road here.
Yeah. Well, I've got patches on my back of hair that are random. What the heck? So swimsuit season doesn't really affect me because I wear, shirts all the time.
Yeah. So what's the pressure?
Who do I talk to about that?
About the hair?
Yeah. Can that be electrified and electrolysis? Can they remove it by electrolysis? We're gonna get one of those people on the show.
I think you can wax it. You can get it laser removed.
That's what I'm getting at. The laser removal. Let's find one of those people and talk to them. Anyway, that's way neither here nor there. Let's talk about what we're talking about today because we've got good stuff, right? We've got better than what we brought so far.
Yes.
We're going to be talking about pressure washers at the end of the show. There's a debate that always rages between gas pressure washers versus electric. Mm-hmm. If you're in the market to buy, which one should you get? We're going to talk about some pros and cons of each one, and you can decide on your own. We're also going to be in the studio with Sue Prins and Ginger Herman from Sue Prins Group 5-Star Real Estate, talking about if you're selling your home, what in the world do you need to do to get it ready for the people who want to buy it?
Yeah, because
how much work should you do?
Probably nothing.
Yeah, just make sure it's not burning, and you're probably fine, right?
Right.
Even then,
I hope not.
Who knows?
That's not the case.
Yeah, because Haley is just starting the house buying process, and
I'd rather not walk into filth.
Yeah, we'll find out what they're going to do to get their house ready to sell it to you, and that's coming up in a little bit. But right now, let's talk about an interesting conversation that you and I had with Caroline Dwan from Benjamin Moore. Caroline comes from the Chicago area, and she met us for lunch about a week ago and was talking to us all the new stuff that's coming out. And then she mentioned this personal dilemma that she ran into.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, she'd painted her kitchen, which went really well. She stepped outside the box. Usually she's kind of a beige or khaki person and was so inspired by the home show, or not the home show, the design event that you guys had a couple years ago. She decides she wants to try something along the lines of First Light for her office now because
now First Light is kind of a pink, a neutrally pink, very soft pink.
Very soft, hardly even there kind of pink. But the kitchen is green. She really likes it a lot. That worked. It's calm. It works in that space. Now the office is right off the kitchen, and she's looking at all the samples in that room. She's doing that right. She sampled. That's the best thing that you can do. But she's getting down to the wire. Her painter is going to be there. That's a friend of hers over the 4th of July weekend. It's the 3rd, and she's still got to choose a color and clean out the room.
Right. Get it ready for the painter to show up.
So it's kind of down to the wire, and it forces her into a position that no one wants to be in. And that's choosing a color that maybe isn't right. It's just...
Well, you've got to have a decision.
Yeah.
That's where she was at. I need to do something. I need to pick something. She had asked a bunch of people for their advice. Mm-hmm. And a couple of things. It's a hard story to tell because there's so many different components. So I want to go back. You had said how she sampled the colors. She did the right thing. She sampled 10 colors, though.
True.
That was part of the problem.
Not all pinks.
Right. She had blues and grays and a number of different tones. So she did all of that and was stuck. Couldn't quite decide. She brought in other people. How many times haven't we done that?
Yeah, what
we
do you
always
think?
do that.
Which one would you choose?
Right. So she brings in other people and gets their advice, and then it really just, she can't settle on anything. Nothing quite seems right, but she's got 10 colors. One of them has to be right.
Yeah, there's a pressure.
Right. Now the painter needs something, and she's got to just go with what she thought was the color in fact, the word she used is, this was the color I disliked the least.
Yeah.
She liked the color in and of itself. That was important. But there was something about it that just didn't feel right.
Exactly.
But she needed a decision. So she chose that color and figured, I'm going to just grow to love it over time. It'll be great. Turns out, didn't work that way. And it really gets worse.
Right.
It was a little bit sad. If it had been me, it would have been even sadder. But this was somebody else, so I was just thinking, oh, this is interesting. Funny how that works.
Let's dig into that.
Yeah, I had a lot of empathy, though. Did you notice?
No.
What? I was very empathetic.
Sure. You were curious.
I wept when she wept.
No.
I didn't? No, I didn't. I was very curious, though. And the thing that was very interesting is that not only did she now hate that color that was in her office, hated it. In fact, when she was describing...
She couldn't even picture it. She hated it so much she didn't even want to think about it.
She said it was gross to even think about the office color and the kitchen color
together.
She said it was like Miami Vice, way too pastel. So here's what you end up with. She loved the kitchen and she liked the color in the office separately. Right. Together...
Gross.
She hated both of them. She hated the kitchen space as well now.
Right.
So now, as we were talking to her, she was thinking about she's got to get a painter back. She's got to pick new colors for both spaces. She's just got to change everything.
Yeah.
She was very frustrated, very depressed in a way, in a lighthearted manner. It's hard to picture Caroline depressed. Yeah, it was an easygoing depression, but you know the feeling. You thought you had something. You thought you were
defeated.
Right, defeated. You're making progress. And then you make a decision that feels like you just erased all the progress you were making.
Exactly.
Now the kitchen that looked great doesn't look great. Nothing feels good. I have no idea where to go. That's where she was at. The good news is there's some solutions to get her out of that aren't nearly as bad as she's thinking.
No.
And even better, if you're in the process right now of choosing colors for a space, we can help you avoid some of the mistakes.
Yeah, there's a lot to learn here.
That were made along the way. Yeah. And we're going to get to all of that after the break. So stay tuned.
Helping you turn your house into your dream home. This is the RepcoLite Home Improvement Show, presented by Benjamin Moore on News Radio Wood 1300 and 106.9 FM.
And we're back, and we were talking, we kind of laid out in the last segment a tale of woe.
A tale of
Not
woe.
like whoa, like whoa, like
No.
a surfer kind of a whoa,
Whoa.
but more like whoa, sad. We had talked to Caroline Dwan from Benjamin Moore. She's a friend of ours. She's been on the show before multiple times, and she's always stuck with beige and khaki and colors like that in her home. And after being on the show, after attending a couple events that Betsy and I and RepcoLite put on a few years back, Caroline felt compelled and inspired to step outside the box. And she tried some new colors, and she went with Cream de Mint, a Benjamin Moore color,
in
her kitchen. Kind of a green that leans with some yellow in it.
Right.
I should have looked at it ahead of time. I didn't. So that's it, right, Haley? Am I okay there? So she loved that color. Then she had to do her home office because everybody's in a home office now. And she put 10 color samples on the walls. She got a bunch of color samples, put all of them on the wall, couldn't quite decide, brought a lot of people in, asked a lot of opinions, and all of a sudden found herself the day before the painter's arriving. She's still got to get the room emptied out. She's got a bunch of stuff to do. She's got to pick a color, so she picks one. Turns out she hates everything now. She hates the kitchen, hates the office. It wrecked everything. How does she fix it? What went wrong?
Yeah.
The first thing that I guess we want to highlight, and this is to help anybody who's in the process of choosing colors. Now, some of these things may or may not apply to you, but take what you can get out of this and use some of these concepts when you're picking colors, and you'll avoid some of this whoa.
Yeah, the heartbreak.
Yeah, that Caroline's dealing with. So one mistake is choosing a color under pressure. That's never a good idea.
Yeah, it takes a lot longer than we think sometimes, and it's almost like that rule of thumb. However long you think something's going to take, just double it.
Right. That's how I do almost everything. I assume I'm going to mess it up and it's going to take longer.
That formula seems to work for some reason.
The thing with the color is that and anytime you've got a deadline, you know, and this applies to everything. This isn't rocket science, but that deadline is a deadline. It can't be extended. There's no way to just add extra time on the end. The only place to add extra time is in the beginning. So you need to start earlier. If you've got a project coming up and you're kind of toying around with the idea, I'd start working on your colors now.
Right, because
you can always be done ahead of time.
That's the one that's going to take the most time. If you're not painting the room yourself and you're depending on this deadline, that's all the work that's up front, and you can't adjust anything now.
No. So start now. That's the first thing. That would have helped Caroline a lot. Another thing is to consider the color of adjoining spaces. That is absolutely key. Don't decorate in a vacuum.
Right. Everything is connected. You're going to walk from one space to the next. You can see the colors from the other room. They've all got to be cohesive and in harmony, work together, because now she doesn't like the office color, this rose bisque. But she did like that kitchen color before, and now she doesn't because of the rose bisque.
Right. Both of the colors she was okay with. It's when she sees them together, and the funny thing is, the ironic thing is, the place where she can sit in the office, where she works, that spot is the spot that allows her to see both of those together.
Right.
So always consider that. Keep that in mind. Sometimes we get over-focused on the room we're in. Remember, it's got to play well with the rest of the house as well. Now, another thing is that more isn't always better. Having too many choices actually makes the whole choosing process much, much tougher.
Well, it can paralyze you sometimes. But also, it's really important to find a color direction before you're sampling. If she's going to go with a pink, it's better to find that out before you've got samples on the wall. It's best not to have blue, gray, and pink on the wall together, because now that's a lot to decide on. Well, if you do want to go with blue, now maybe you've got to sample more blues to find the right one.
Right.
That's overwhelming.
Right. And that's so interesting because, what we would say is when you get to the point of putting colors on the wall, you should already have figured out kind of the rough direction where you're going.
Yeah, because now you're just doing tints and shades.
Right. And worst case scenario, you've got a couple of options where you maybe might be going.
Right.
But you certainly don't want to have this full spectrum because, like you're saying, it can make it more confusing. There's still more to dig into. And also, colors don't look right necessarily next to other certain tones. We see the undertones come through.
Well, and our eyes are averaging all the colors that we see at once. So we're not really seeing that color unless it's by itself. That's so important to remember. That's why we want to get it larger with these color samples mostly, so that we're not seeing the other colors in our vision.
Right.
We want to narrow in.
So when we talk about buying color samples, Benjamin Moore has those sample pints. What we're not not necessarily recommending is that you just try a whole bunch of different tones and all kinds of different colors. We're saying use the color chips in the store for that. Take those home to figure out where you want to go. Then get specific with the color samples that you're actually painting onto the wall.
Exactly.
Another mistake or something to consider is that outside opinions aren't always helpful. Right now with social media, it's just blown up where people are throwing things out on their social media pages and asking for opinions.
Let's have a poll. Yeah. Which one do you think I should choose? And maybe that's helpful, but sometimes what do you do if the answers don't go with your gut? If you're thinking, I really like this one, but everyone else is saying, well, I think this one. Now there's that battle. Or people know you so well that they know that that's the one that you already like. They're just going to confirm your bias.
Well, and Caroline talked about that. She said she brought in a bunch of people and they all they said, in fact, she had even said at our lunch that a couple people had just said, you like that color. You like that rose bisque. Go for it. They're just confirming her in that color.
Right.
And that can be good.
But if it's none of them, are they going to be the people that say, maybe this isn't the direction we should go with at all?
Right. And a lot of us, if we have that person in our lives who will tell us those things, those aren't the people that we usually ask.
Yeah, we don't want to hear that.
So it's a tough situation when you bring people in. It's tough for them. It's tough to come in and say, I don't like what you've put together.
Yeah,
it's
that's
an
why
awkward...
you need an outside person like a designer or a color consultant that's going to be unbiased and just able to be objective about color.
Somebody you don't have to go and eat Easter dinner with, after all of this. So we've got color consultants in the store who will gladly help. If you want to bring in some color samples and talk it through, we can connect you with a designer if you'd like. Just stop in at any RepcoLite or Port City Paint store and start the conversation. Now, another thing that happens, and you kind of alluded to it already, Haley, is Caroline didn't trust her gut on this one.
And that's the part I think she's really disappointed with, too, is that she knew and didn't listen to herself. That's always frustrating when you have the feeling that this isn't quite right, even if you don't know why. Mm-hmm. If you feel that way, you've kind of got to trust it because color is not this rational thing that we can just think our way out of. If we feel it's not right, it's never really going to be right. I don't know that we can learn to love a color.
Well, right. We talk about that all the time, how color creates the atmosphere in a space. Mm-hmm. And so much of that is built around the feeling of what it's doing. It's not a logical thing at all.
Yeah, that's why it's so difficult.
Right. So trying to force yourself or thinking that, hey, I'm going to grow to like this down the road, it doesn't always play out that way. And what Caroline, in retrospect, when we were talking to her, what she picked up on is the thing that was causing her to have this averse reaction to it, this gut feeling that it wasn't quite right, was seeing the two together. Yes. She was seeing the green in the kitchen and she was seeing this color sample, and something inside was saying, this is really, really not where you want to go. Mm-hmm. But she didn't listen. She figured, I need to step outside. Yeah. And I think that's really interesting because we always are challenging people. And this is a fine line.
Right,
How do you step outside of your own box and challenge yourself and still pay attention to your gut? Mm-hmm. Because sometimes our gut will keep us too safe.
Right.
All we're saying is just don't discount one or the other. Sometimes we're tempted to just figure, I've got to challenge myself. I'm going to ignore what I'm feeling. Mm-hmm. And sometimes we feel the other way. Try to find a way through keeping both of those in mind. And you do that by giving yourself more time to work through that process, like we said in the beginning. There's a lot going on. Choosing colors can be really, really frustrating. It can be stressful.
Yeah.
It can be one of those things that almost makes us want to shy away from paint projects.
True.
On the other hand, it can be really rewarding. When you get it right and you nail it, there's really nothing that feels better than seeing that space come together like that.
Yeah, your vision is coming to life at that point, and there's nothing that feels quite like that, really.
Right. It's so fun when it comes together, and it can be so frustrating when it doesn't.
Yeah.
But the big thing to remember is that it's just paint. It can be redone.
True.
And the good news is there are a number of things that you can do ahead of time to make sure that you get the best results possible. And follow some of the things that we just talked about. And by all means, stop out at any RepcoLite or Port City Paint store, and we'll work with you to get you exactly where you want to go. Now, we're going to take a break. And when we come back, we're talking with Sue Prinz and Ginger Herman about what you need to do if you're selling your house this spring. How much work do you think you need to do? Good news is, not a lot.
Much.
That's all coming up next. Stay tuned.
If you want to take your DIY skills up a rung, the RepcoLite Home Improvement Show is here to give you a boost on News Radio Wood 1300 and 106.9 FM.
And we're back. Haley, we're sitting here. We're on the phone with Ginger Herman and Sue Prinz from Sue Prinz Group 5-Star Real Estate. Thanks for being here, or at least being on the phone with us, guys.
Ah, we
Ladies,
love it.
I shouldn't have said guys. Is that offensive? Some people that offends.
Yeah, that's
okay.
So offensive. Especially now that I have a cold and I have this deep, manly voice.
Yeah.
Ladies.
Yeah. So, I don't never know what to say. I was an English major. My gosh. I never know how to handle those. Anyway, guys is just it's just all of us. We're all together in this.
Oh, yeah.
Anyway, thanks for being here. Thanks for putting up with me. We talked to you a couple of weeks ago about, or so, I can't remember, but we talked about the market right now, the real estate market, and how, Sue, I believe you used the analogy of a big tank of water, which sounds calming, and then you filled that tank with sharks, okay?
I did.
And then you threw a little morsel of meat in the middle of it and said, that's what it's like trying to get a house. All right, so that made the point. Now, one of the things that when, on our show here and pretty much everywhere you look through, up until a couple of years ago, for sure, everywhere you look online, if you're going to sell your home, here are the maintenance things that you need to do. And as houses started to sell more and more quickly, I started to wonder, I don't think I'm that brilliant, but I started to think, how many of these things really matter anymore? So
Right.
we've got you both here, and we thought we'd ask. As a seller, I'm looking at my house. How much work do I really legitimately need to do in order to put it on the market?
Yeah, what things matter?
That's a good question. It used to be that we would encourage people to go in and make cosmetic, changes that are easy and low expense for the seller. And some of the things that would really make a difference would be on price, would be, things like changing out countertops and things like that. But man, today buyers go in and they are, like those sharks that we talked about, and they just want to get this thing under contract. They can envision themselves doing, some of the work there, the painting and whatever, even changing out countertops for that matter. So Ginger, I'd like you to speak into this as well, but I think a big thing today would be, is making sure the home just is cleaned up, clutter-free, and staged appropriately. I think that's a big thing right there. And then making it safe, making sure that it's, the safety issues that might come up in an inspection are taken care of. But some of the cosmetic things, I just believe a multitude of the sins of a home are forgiven in today's market because, people are jumping on this like sharks and know that they've got to be competing with multiple offers. So they're not thinking so much in terms of that.
Right. That makes sense.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think I always just tell my sellers, you got to deep clean, not like a just quick clean through the house, but do a good deep clean, meaning like wiping down walls, wiping down trim, getting the stuff that you don't really ever get, like doing that. Declutter, she mentioned, that's a huge one. The bigger that we can make your room, the better. So if we can get rid of stuff, and even if it's in a spot in the basement or sitting in the garage, it's still better than in your family room or your dining room, kitchen, bedrooms, whatever. And then, she kind of touched upon the inspections, making your home basically look best for when an inspector comes through. So I've had sellers just call, HVAC company, get tune-ups on their furnace or their AC, because then that shows buyers that they're, caring for their mechanics, which looks better to the buyer, especially if you have an old furnace. Having a tune-up right before you sell your house, and you can kind of show the buyers, hey, I know it's old, but I've got a tune-up and it's an A-OK on the furnace.
That's smart.
So you're not seeing lots of offers come in, just 7 years ago, I bought the house I'm at. And the offer that we had a couple of, I don't know what I'd call them, not contingencies, but there were things that we asked the seller to fix. And they gladly agreed to that. Are you seeing offers with those things in them, or is that really a thing of the past right now? No, not at all. What about a roof?
No.
What about stuff like that?
Well, here's why I want to address that, because remember, they've probably been in a multiple offer situation. So the buyer agent at least would understand that as soon as she opens up that contract by, sending over an addendum with any fixes, the seller is going to just grab the next person in line,
Wow.
From the list of multiple offers that they had. So, this is why.
So like even a roof that's nearing the end of its life, that used to be a big deal, not a big deal anymore?
No.
Oh my goodness.
No,
Wow.
I know.
Buyers don't care.
Yeah.
I always tell my buyers when inspections come through, kind of view it as like a pass or fail. Is it great enough that you're going to buy it, or is it that bad that you're going to walk away because the seller is probably not going to give you the money towards whatever the fix is. I mean, if we've got a huge safety concern, I think that's a little bit different.
Sure,
Right.
of course.
That's, that's a whole different can of worms. But if it's just like, yeah, your roof is old or your furnace is old, the next buyer in line is probably willing to pay for that in a year or two, replace it themselves.
I
Well,
like
right.
that analogy of the pass-fail instead of getting
Yes.
grades. That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
It puts us sometimes in a kind of a weird position as buyer agents, because it is our job, it's our fiduciary duty to advise and guide our buyers, to their best interest.
Mm-hmm.
So, on one hand, we're saying, yeah, that roof is really old, probably needs a new roof within the next year or less. And so it's not like we're trying to encourage them to, make poor decisions. We're just informing them that, is this something that you're okay with? And can you budget for that? Because also down the road, we don't want them to be house poor, that, they're putting
Right.
money into a home that they just at the end of the day weren't prepared to do, because they wrote such a high offer. Now they have no money left, to invest into this home. So we do want them to win a home that they really want, but we also want to make sure it's a good decision for them.
Right.
So we're trying to, balance that and guide them appropriately. If they're thinking about, well, should we do inspections or not? No, we advise you to get inspections, but yes, somebody else might come along and remove inspections, things like that. So,
Wow. So what
Yep.
about the sellers? And I guess let's make it personal. If I would list my house right now, there are a couple of things that I'm thinking about at home that I would still be curious, even after everything you said, that maybe I should deal with. Is that something that you guys, I'm assuming you would come out or at least talk me through that and help me understand whether those things are worth it or not? If a seller's in my shoes, can they contact you about that?
yeah, we absolutely love doing that, because they don't know, the sellers they're just, they're looking around going, they're looking at all these things they think they might need to do.
Mm-hmm.
And we love to come in there and sort of put them at ease and say, well, here's the things we encourage you to focus on. And sometimes it's nothing, and they're surprised by that. But, sometimes there are some things we would say, you know what? If you could focus on this, it's going to make all the difference in the world as to how your home shows, or to even the dollar amount that you might get, where it's going to go, in a multiple offer situation. When you make your home just even clean and decluttered and, looking like it's well maintained, like we said earlier, it's, makes a difference. So, yeah, we would love to do that. Absolutely.
Well, Sue and Ginger, that's all the time we've got. If our listeners have any questions about any aspect of buying or selling a house, how's the best way to get in touch?
The best way would be our cell phone, and that would be 616-723-2400 is my number, Sue Prince, and Ginger's number is 616-633-5880.
All right, Sue, Ginger, thanks for being here.
Thank
Thank
you.
you so much.
Well, that gives me a lot to think about as I'm walking into potential homes to buy.
Right.
What I can expect the amount of work that's been done.
None.
Yeah.
They're not going to do anything. You've got to do it all.
Maybe it'll be clean. Maybe.
That's what you're hoping for.
Yeah.
And the thing about doing the work yourself, that's not as bad as it sounds.
No, it's
The roof
not.
thing is tough, but sometimes...
And honestly, no matter what shape the house is in, I'm going to want to do a bunch of work regardless.
Well, that's the thing. Sometimes
Yeah.
we go, in the past, sellers would go through a lot of work to repaint, and they'd paint it in colors they liked, and then the new buyers would be back and repaint the whole thing
Yeah,
anyway.
exactly.
So not all of that's terrible,
It's not.
but it is still definitely a different world out there right now.
But we're going to take a break. And when we come back, we're talking about some spring cleaning to do on the outside and a big debate about gas or electric pressure washer. Which one is for you? That's coming up in a little bit. Stay tuned.
If you want to take your DIY skills up a rung, the RepcoLite Home Improvement Show is here to give you a boost on News Radio Wood 1300 and 106.9 FM.
Whoa, Haley, you were talking this week about a project that you tackled last weekend. Got outside, enjoyed the weather, did a little raking.
Yeah.
And it sounded really good. You really made the case for how you were outside working.
Well, it felt really productive.
Yeah, it felt really productive, but hold on. I'm going to let you talk about all the things you want to talk about. Why were you raking in the first place? I'll just fill in the blank for you because you don't want to say it. It's because you didn't rake last fall. You're that person.
Yeah.
All of us have people in our lives who are that person who don't rake their leaves, and then their leaves blow into our yard. And then we rake them over and over and over.
Well,
now, I'm not
to
bitter.
be fair, we're on the corner. It wasn't going into anyone else's yard. It was just going into the street.
All right. So you're raking the leaves that you
on the side of the house, not the whole yard.
Okay. So you did some of your leaves, but you left this side.
Yeah.
And you got to it last weekend. And you ended up making some muddy mess or something, right?
Well, yeah. I mean, the side of the house isn't super big, and there's a tree back there. So it's all shaded. No grass can grow. It's just dirt and then leaves pile up there. So I was raking all of that out. And as I'm raking, I mean, at this point, the leaves are dust. They're disintegrating because it's been out for so long. And there's dirt and mud under the leaves on the sidewalk. And even though it looks better than it did, it still doesn't look great.
Right. You said your sidewalk's covered with dirt now.
Yeah.
You basically can't see it. It's a dirt path.
Right.
So I asked you, what's your plan for next fall when you decide to actually get to that? And you said you're going to do it sooner than that. And you thought maybe a power washer is the way to go.
Yeah, because hopefully I won't be there next fall, so that'll be someone else's problem. But yeah, I did it once when I was living in Portland, and it worked really well. And I just had an electric one there at the gallery that I worked at. And so I took that and power washed the sidewalks, and why not do it again? It was kind of fun.
Right. Well, that's the thing. Power washers, really handy kind of a thing. You know, we see them all over the place. They, a number of years back, we started seeing them in stores inexpensively, electric ones. And my previous experience was always big, heavy-duty, gas, expensive power washers.
Right.
That's what we rent out of the store at RepcoLite and Port City Paints, and that'll do a great job. And I've always looked kind of askance at these electric ones, right?
Yeah, because they're small looking. Like, what is that going to do?
It seems like it's probably not worth it.
Right.
But we thought, let's dig into it a little bit. We've got a home improvement show. We've got nothing but time. Maybe we can help some people. So we dug into them. Power washers themselves. All kinds of things you can do, right? Your sidewalks, patio areas, houses. You can clean your siding, clean all of those things. Your fence, your bike,
car,
a grill. I found an article making the case which power washer you should get. And they listed 10 things that are the most common things that people power wash. Do you know what number 9 was? The toilet. Come on.
So bizarre.
I know. I want to write to the author and find out what world.
Are you? What are you doing to your toilet or not doing to your toilet? That's insane. It would go everywhere. Water would be everywhere.
All I could figure is they meant the bathroom, like a commercial bathroom.
Yeah, like a rest stop bathroom that has like the
a truck
drains.
Stop. Maybe you can see power washing the toilet in a truck stop. Maybe.
I get that.
But they didn't say any of that. So I'm picturing somebody in a hazmat suit. Well, that toilet's going to have to be power washed. It's the only way to get that cleaned, right?
It's crazy.
Anyway, number 9 on the list of the 10 most common things we power wash. So if you're thinking about power washing your toilet or any of the other items that we listed, what do you do? Do you buy a power washer? Do you rent one? And we're going to ask that question at the end. Let's talk about the pros and cons between gas and electric, because that's the first debate to settle in your head. Which one's right for you? And there is a debate. There are
people are
snobs.
opinionated.
Yes. I'm a snob in the sense that generally I'd try to go towards something that's gas powered.
And see, I think that for me, something that I want to carry around that's light enough, that's inexpensive, I would go with an electric. I've used it before and it did the job that I needed to do. I'm not doing some crazy commercial work where I need that kind of power.
Right. And your toilet's been cleaned regularly, so the power washing is going to be pretty minor on it. Let's talk about the pros and cons. The pros of an electric power washer, we've kind of already summed some of them up. It's inexpensive. $150 can get you a pretty good one.
Right.
It's quieter. So that's something I would consider, because the nonstop noise of a gas motor can sometimes drive you nuts. Saturday, I'm trying to take a nap, trying to relax.
Yeah.
All the things I like to do on a Saturday.
And your neighbors out there.
Yeah, it can drive you nuts. Now, with an electric power washer, it's quieter to begin with, and when you release the trigger, it stops running. There's no noise at all, whereas a gas will run until you actually turn the motor off.
And I think that one of the pros and cons is that they're lighter duty and that they only go up to around 2,000 PSI. So the ability to wash smaller items is there. It doesn't give you the great ability to do it quickly when you're doing a large project or to really get some serious stains out of something. But if you want to do smaller things like a bike or a grill, you don't want something super powerful that's going to like blow the paint off.
Well, you can damage materials with too strong of a power washer. So yeah, it's a plus and a minus.
Right.
They will peak out at about 2,000 PSI. And generally something we should talk about is they will do lower gallon per minute rates than a gas power washer.
We'll get
and
into
both of those
cleaning
numbers
units.
matter to you. Yes, cleaning units is what those both will give us. So if you look at the PSI, you can find, equivalents. You can find a gas one that's maybe similar to an electric one.
Right.
You can find a low-end gas one, a high-end electric one. The PSI might be the same, but the gallons per minute could be significantly different.
Yeah.
And that makes a big difference in the end. So the cleaning units thing, something to keep in mind. Cleaning units refers to how fast the machine is going to clean a space.
Yep.
And a real quick, easy way to figure it is to take the PSI and multiply it by the gallons per minute. So if you've got a 2,000 PSI machine that will do 1.5 gallons per minute, you're looking at 3,000 cleaning units.
It's such a funny unit to say, cleaning units.
It's a cleaning unit.
But it makes sense.
It does. If you've got a 2,000 PSI, same PSI machine that will do 2.5 gallons per minute, let's say, now you're looking at 5,000 cleaning units.
So a pretty big difference there.
A big difference, and it's good. So it's going to clean faster is the bottom line. So the electric ones, they're going to be slower in all of those things because they can't push as much water through. All right? You're also confined to the cord or where outlets are.
Yeah, that's
you're
true.
limited. So a gas power washer, what are the pros? Well, obviously it's faster. More gallons per minute means more cleaning power and quickly. All of that stuff. They can go to higher PSI ratings.
Yeah, you're essentially looking at a commercial product at that point, so you can do bigger jobs, dirtier jobs, and it's going to get it done faster.
Right. So if your toilet really has been neglected, maybe gas is the way to go.
But on the other side of that, like I was just saying, is that you can damage things when you get this serious of a PSI plus gallons per minute.
Well, we have seen definitely people, I've heard of people breaking windows by using the wrong tip, the too much pressure. They have damaged their deck or they're cleaning a fence. You can even etch concrete if you get crazy and use the wrong tip.
I had
too
a
much
friend
pressure.
that worked at a big box store, and he would demonstrate the power washers outside to sell them. And one of his selling points was how powerful they could be. And he would stand outside with a board and a power washer and cut the board in half just with the power of the water coming out of it.
Right.
So you can really do some damage.
Right. Bottom line, how do you figure out which one's right for you? A lot of it's going to depend on what are you cleaning. Commercial units, if you're a contractor, a gas power washer is a no-brainer. You're a homeowner, basically looking to clean the car from time to time, wash the siding of the house once a year, maybe do the deck once a year. Might be fine just to go with an electric one. It might get the project accomplished just fine. You can use it for other things around the house. If you do need to do something like a deck or a bigger project and a gas power washer is what you need, but you don't want to drop the money for one, we rent them out at any RepcoLite or Port City paint store. Just give us a call and we can walk you through that. Maybe that's the best way all around. Clean the toilet once every 3 years and rent a gas power washer to do it. Anyway, that's all the time we've got. We're going to wrap it up. If you want to check this one out again, you can find it online at RepcoLite.com.
And we love to see your before and after pictures. So tag us on Instagram, RepcoLite Paints. Check us out. We've also got a paint palette coming out for April. So that's one to stay tuned for too.
Exactly. Whatever you do today, make sure paint's a part of it. The RepcoLite and Port City paint stores are open till 3, waiting to help. I'm Dan Hansen.
And I'm Haley Johnson.
Thanks for listening.